All right, folks, I'm back, and I promise you I'd be covering the election news all the way up until November 3rd when we go out and vote down ballot, if I do say so myself. So today I'm covering the first night of the convention, focusing on Michelle Obama's speech to the crowd. And boy, was it a big nothing burger. But before I get started, go ahead and hit that like button, pop thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel if you're new and you're looking forward to more of my content. Cover the election up until election day, but also talk about celebrities, obviously everything ADOS, and I do my short documentaries. Next one's going to be about Beats by Dre, but also go back and check out the one that I did on the rise and fall of BET. And then, of course, I did my first one on Megan Thee Stallion. So if you want to know about her, check that out. Again, like and subscribe. All right, so talking about the DNC convention, all digital this year, of course, because of COVID. So they're not in the big arena. It's all digital. Get the Zoom and the Skype calls from folks across the nation. And it was a lot of, I'll just give my overall sense. It was a lot of kumbaya, giving me a lot of black and brown feels. A lot of we're all one people and hope and change. Same thing they were doing with Barack Obama, that they think is going to work a second time, but little do they know. At least black people, ADOS people ain't falling for the okie doke this time. So they got the DNC convention, hosted by Eva Longoria. Now, I remember her being back at maybe a couple DNCs in the past. Now, I get it. If you're going all digital, you need someone with some kind of to keep the crowd going, because none of these elected politicians for sure are going to do it. But what's obvious to me is having Eva Longoria, and I don't know if she's hosting the same thing. I'll see tonight because I'll be watching again tonight. But folks on my Twitter are seeing it too, that they're pandering to, DNC is pandering to what they believe is their future base. Now, I think everybody should be represented, especially in exchange for their vote. But it is very obvious that that the DNC, the Democratic Party, believes that the Hispanic population in the United States, the Latinx voters, are the future. And we've seen that time and time again in the lack of policies specifically for black people. All right, so Eva Longoria is hosting, and she's an actress, so she did okay. Not what I'm here to talk. So the other thing I noticed that they had George Floyd's family, what I believe are his two brothers, maybe his two brothers there, talking about George Floyd. And what I did appreciate was how they related George's humanity. That the man, the folks will talk about him who knew him well and say that he was a giving, kind, and loving man. Then they did the 2 minutes of silence, and they had somebody called Leon Bridges perform a song afterwards. Now, again, I appreciate the DNC giving a platform to George Floyd's family, but I do not appreciate them exploiting this man's death for votes and for politics. George Floyd was locked up previously by the same legislation that Biden wrote and championed, 94 crime bill. Now you're going to bring George Floyd's family on stage to exploit his death? A death that Joe Biden has worked his whole damn career to make a reality? Same thing with you, Kamala Harris. You spent your time as district attorney and attorney general locking black men like George Floyd up for petty crimes. He was accused of passing a fake $20 bill. And we know Kamala has locked thousands of men up on petty charges. So it's crazy that they sit this man's family up here and pretend to care about the plight of his family and the community when we know what their record has been, especially Biden and Harris. So even though they had George Floyd's family there. And so the keynote for the night, of course, former First Lady Michelle Obama. Now, I heard before the speech even started that it was going to be a big old nothing burger. Michelle recently came out and said she was suffering from mild depression. And She was trying to cope with it. Is that why you chose to wear brown, Michelle? Because not a good look, first of all. Just totally turned me off. And then I noticed, too, the setting. Now, we all know that Barack and Michelle just bought, $13 million estate in Martha's Vineyard? Now, why they had Michelle look like she was sitting up in the church kitchen? A little southern church kitchen that they put some flowers in and a nice little table and dressed up. It's all a con. You got to see it. You mean to tell me you just bought a $10 to $13 million estate in Martha's Vineyard, but they got you sitting up in a church kitchen to deliver the speech? Okay, just watch that play, folks. Trying to make Michelle relatable. We didn't see her with her Balenciaga boots on, did we? They had Michelle up in that plain old, to be honest, shit-colored shirt. Sitting in the church kitchen. I said, to be honest, they should have had Sasha and Malia. If we're talking about energizing the base, damn, I hate to tell you, but Michelle ain't it. We're over the con of Michelle and Barack. Now, Michelle done got her podcast. She done came out with her book, posturing to be the next Oprah, talking about her mild depression. But what have you done, Michelle? No, I know why you feel sad. You probably have a lot of guilt from the 8 years you and your husband were in office, and you did nothing to benefit your community. Nothing to say you're proud that, when America elected a black man, but I'm not proud of you, Michelle. You haven't done anything but write a book and talk on a podcast. And I ain't read the book and I ain't listening to the podcast. So what have you done for me lately? That's probably why you feel depressed, because you haven't done anything. So besides that, like I said, I wish should have been Sasha and Malia up there. We at least haven't heard them talk. No, I don't know if they should have to posture for Biden. Michelle looked like she barely wanted to do it. But I think, damn, at least if we're talking about the future of the Democratic Party, it ain't the likes of Michelle and the folks who vote for her, or the folks who kiki with her. So after that, we start hearing, Michelle introduces herself and she starts this generic ramble about what a great man Jim Crow Joe is. Starts to say, how she has lived on the backs or come up on the backs of the folks who came before her, been able to benefit from their struggle. All very generic. Again, I told you it's a very generic speech. So yeah, came up on the backs of the people who came before you and benefited from their struggle. Who's she talking about, y'all? Could be anybody, right? We know specifically who she meant, who did that work. American descendants of slavery for the last 400 years in America. But so why not say that? Why not say you benefited from the struggles of your literal ancestors, Michelle Robinson? Why give this generic proclamation and platitude about benefiting from on the backs of the people who came before you? Or climbing on the back, standing on the shoulders? Why not be specific? Because you've never been specific, Michelle. You and your husband have never been specific in doing anything for black people. And we see that time and time again with these platitudes that she delivers. And it happens so that we can then be led to believe that it wasn't ADOS or black people who built this country, African Americans, that it was some mysterious amalgamation or great American melting pot that did the hard labor, when we all know that's not true. Now, yeah, the great American melting pot exploited the labor and the resources that we built up, ADOS. But they certainly, I'm not going to say I stood on the shoulders of people if it ain't true. So Michelle continues on, about a 20-minute speech. She says that, she's one of the few people who can understand what it takes to be president. Mentions clear judgment. I don't know how we would expect to believe that Biden has clear judgment when the man can barely string together a few sentences. She also says that the president must be able to be a master of complex and competing ideas. Something of the sort. Master of complex and competing demands, ideas, problems. Again, not an ageist, but Biden does not seem to have all his mental faculties present. So Michelle's out here trying to tell us that a president has to have clear judgment and a master of complex and competing problems and ideas. We have yet to see Biden do any of that. As vice president, he didn't do a damn thing. Sat in office for 8 years, building his wealth and that of his son. And since then, he's been waiting to run for office. So his mastery, his clear judgment and mastery of complex problems has been locking black people up. Michelle then says that a president must have a moral compass. Come on now. I ain't even got to go there with Biden. The man is one of the most morally barren elected officials I've known to exist. A man who has the audacity to call children future predators, or to so callously talk about the oppression of black people in urban ghettos that were created like it's a problem that him and his people didn't create. Talk about a moral compass. Michelle then goes on to say that, pivoting here away from what we need as president and what we obviously will not get in any of the choices that we currently have, that Black Lives Matter doesn't matter to who's in the current White House. Come on now, Michelle. Black Lives Matter didn't matter to Barack Obama either. In fact, Black Lives Matter came about under Barack Obama. Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Philando Castile, Sandra Bland, Mike Brown, all while Obama was in office, all while your husband was in office, Michelle. Henry Louis Gates gets harassed on the front porch of his own home by a police officer, and you make him sit down with that police officer to have a beer? Instead of rightfully chastising the wrongful conduct of that police officer, you make Henry Louis Gates, one of our most esteemed scholars, sit down to a beer for him, an insult to him and his legacy. Barack Obama never cared about black lives. Joe Biden doesn't care about black lives. Michelle then refers back to one of her more prominent, I would say, beliefs, what she's, become known for. Says that she often gets asked if she still believes in going high when others go low. Michelle says that going high is the only thing that has worked. Black people, ADOS people, African American people especially, whatever you want to call yourself, when are we going to stop doing this black respectability politics? It don't matter if you're in a suit. your Sunday best. You still descended from slavery. You're still a part of a community with zero wealth. You're still going to be the victim of police brutality. None of that's going to change because you want to go high. We've seen in the past, going high only gets our towns burned down. Going high only gets us locked up. You like to talk about John Lewis and getting yourself into good trouble. John Lewis got his ass beat on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Tell him to go high when he's bloodied up and beat. Police certainly didn't. People out there protesting for the right to live, being attacked online and off in the streets, teeth knocked out, head busted open, dead in jail, locked up. Tell them to go high, Michelle. But this is what I expect from a boomer, which is why I get back to my previous point is y'all should have just had Sasha and Malia up there. You're telling me Sasha and Malia are talking about going high? We saw Malia getting high, but we haven't seen them going high. And it's about time we get over this whole going high thing. This is a whole deal with Kamala. She's one of those women we look at, looks like a auntie, a Annie, AKA went to Howard, always got a nice little wrap down. And it's all black respectability. Kamala looks respectable. She has a respectable education. Comes from a respectable background. 2 college-educated professors for parents. She ain't descended from slavery. She's Jamaican Indian. And not, at least not American slavery, American chattel slavery. So again, what's been damaging us to our what's been detrimental to us, at least for the last decades, is black respectability, this going high. I wish Michelle would really stop saying that. Because it hasn't worked. And it won't work. When somebody's willing to beat your ass, going high will get you killed. And then, after that, Michelle spends the last half of her speech trying to humanize Joe. And you'll hear folks talk a lot about, when he was a young senator, he lost his wife and his children. Some of his children. And that his son Bo died while he was vice president, died of brain cancer. And all that is tragic. I can't imagine what it's like to lose a child, multiple children, in multiple decades while you're serving in office and in the public's eye. And while that's all well and good, Michelle, in the last half, the almost 10 minutes you spent trying to humanize Joe, you couldn't point to one single policy that in any way proves that Joe is the moral compass we need in office, that he can humanize others besides the ones in his family, outside of the folks in his family. No policy. No laws, no actions, nothing to point to specifically, but you want us to believe that this is who we should elect to the highest office in the land. Some argue most powerful man in the world, who has spent the last 3-4 decades in office doing what? I can't tell you. Folks like to say, oh, well, what has Joe done since the crime bill? Y'all want to say that he's so bad. What has he done to hurt you aside from the crime bill? Well, first of all, I don't have to put the crime bill aside. It's legitimate. It is what it is. As Michelle said in her thing, it is what it is. I don't have to put the crime bill aside. Number two, it's not a good thing that you can't point to anything that Joe Biden has done that is beneficial for anybody, let alone black people, ADOS people. That's a sad fact that you've been an elected official for 30, 40 years and haven't done a damn thing. Except lock black people up. It's not a good thing that your record is non-existent. That you don't have a single positive attribute to point to during your time in office, at least not from my perspective. But I'm supposed to go out on November 3rd and vote. Girl. Come on now, Michelle. Sorry for that. She wrapped it up, getting about 20-minute speech. Can't say she seemed enthused. Who would? Even Michelle knows better than that. Than to show her ass for Joe Biden. Nonetheless, she did. And call it what you want. It's a part of the posturing for the future. She's got to stay in the favor of the Democratic Party. That's her claim to fame, is being a darling of the Democratic Party. And if you're that no longer, then what are you? You're Barack Obama's wife. Yes, you have your career and education in your own right. But I think we're beyond that right now. You're not going back to being a regular person like we see some of these previous first ladies doing. And so, therefore, we get to see them trot you out anytime that they need a black woman to sell a racist. And that's what we got with this keynote speech, first day of the DNC. Michelle Obama, folks. But let me know what you think. Did you watch Michelle Obama's speech? What'd you think? Did she seem enthusiastic about Biden? Some people were saying Michelle might run for office in the future or have a place in the cabinet. Do you think Biden has promised Michelle a place in the cabinet for getting out there and shucking for him? Let me know. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about Eva Longoria hosting and George Floyd's family being a part of the convention. Don't forget to like and subscribe, folks. And I will talk to you next time. Bring you more election news, of course, more celebrity news. And I will see you.